Life as an e-skate reviewer can be pretty mundane when all we're doing is reviewing similar boards at similar paths. And then Propel EV shows up and spiced things up for us. If you've not been paying attention, Propel EV has made a name for itself by creating high-end off-road suspension boards. Since their first board, the Propel X4S, $2,299, Propel EV has been determined to bring true all-terrain riding to the masses. It's safe to say that their latest pair of products, the Propel Endeavor S and Pro, is all about that. Today, we will be reviewing the Propel Endeavor S, which costs only $999, a price point that is nearly unheard of when it comes to off-road suspension boards. As usual, let's start with the specs. While the total length of the Endeavor S is 44.4 inches, 112 centimeters, the actual deck where you stand is only 30.7 inches, 780 millimeters. To put this into perspective, a typical shortboard deck is also around 30 inches. However, being shorter doesn't really compromise the stability, since the board has a wheelbase that is wider than its deck, and the shorter length helps the board to fit into more car trunks. The board still comes in at 37.5 pounds, 17 kilograms though. Unlike the higher-priced Endeavor Pro, which has a carbon fiber deck, the Endeavor S has a deck made of maple composite and is completely stiff thanks to the enclosure underneath. The concave on the deck is nice and wide, making it very comfortable. On to the trucks. The Propel Endeavor S uses different trucks and suspension systems than the X4S. However, in both setups, each truck has its own dedicated suspension system and can move up or down independent of the others. We will talk more about how it rides later. For the wheels, Propel uses large 8-inch, 200mm pneumatic wheels that have tread patterns which allow better grip in all-terrain use. With pneumatic wheels, you can always play around with the tire pressure to match your comfort level. Now, let's go over the electronic parts. The Propel Endeavor S uses a 12S Lingyi ESC with generic Lingyi remote, while the Endeavor Pro uses a VESC with VX2 remote. Knowing the ESC, you might already have an idea of the characteristics of the speed control on both boards. If you don't, not to worry, we'll talk about it in detail later. Going with a Lingyi ESC also means the Endeavor S has the push-to-turn-on feature, which is always nice. But even going without it would be less of a big deal, as Propel brilliantly placed the power button on top of the board. A nice touch. The Endeavor S uses a pack of 12S 3P batteries, which gave us 15 amp hours or 666 watt hours, while the Endeavor Pro is almost 2 times bigger and uses a pack of 12S 5P batteries, which is 25 amp hours or 1,110 watt hours in size. This gives the Endeavor S a marketed range of 28 miles, 45 kilometers, for a 165-pound or 75-kilogram rider, and 17 miles, 28 kilometers, for 220-pound, 100-kilogram rider. Our in-house 200-pound, 90-kilogram test rider actually achieved a test range of 26 miles, or 42 kilometers. It's crazy how much Propel understates the range of this thing. Going through the specs, it is absolutely mind-blowing that Propel can put in so much value for the price of $999. A regular all-terrain board from a budget e-skate brand would already cost as much. But just like the Endeavor S is not your regular all-terrain board, Propel is not a budget brand either, and you can see that in the polish that this thing has. Amazing. Oh, by the way, it's important to mention that the board is not rated to be waterproof. Don't ask us how we found out. Now that we have broken down all the specs, it's time to ride. Let's first talk about the acceleration. Pairing a set of huge motors with a Lingyi ESC means that the Endeavor S controls are powerful but aren't perfectly smooth like most typical electric skateboards. On a side note, the Endeavor Pro with its VESC is both powerful and smooth. The Lingyi ESC allows the Propel Endeavor S to have 4 speed modes and 4 brake modes, independent of each other. The highest acceleration mode is very aggressive and is scary to use. My suggestion is just to ignore it. Stick with the first 3 modes, which are much less harsh and already plenty strong. Personally, I see absolutely no reason to use the 4th mode for the higher torque that you won't need. The brake modes on the Endeavor S took us by surprise, as they don't have the same flaw of the acceleration and are strong but smooth. Now that we've talked about the speed control, let's talk about the maneuverability of the board. Off-road suspension boards are pretty heavy and have a long wheelbase. This means that you are not expected to be making the sharpest turns on them. We've seen lots of other reviews mentioning the Endeavor S as easy to turn, but our experience didn't match that. We've loosened the trucks to the max, and yet we were struggling to make sharp turns. The only explanation that we have is that, other than the range test guy, we are all scrawny Asians weighing under 160 pounds or 70 kilograms. If you are much heavier than us, you would probably turn the board fine, but don't expect it to be good for carving fun. While carving and turning might not be what an off-road suspension board shines at, staying stable on poor road conditions definitely is. Hitting the top speed is easy, as the board not only accelerates fast, but it is also perfectly stable and absorbs road bumps almost completely. This might be the most enjoyable part of the board, going full throttle without a fear in the world. So, when it comes to the board's usability as an urban commuter, it really depends. Riding the Endeavor S on sidewalks with 90-degree turns would be quite disastrous, and you would be better off getting a double kingpin all-terrain longboard. However, if you ditch the sidewalk and ride on the road itself, you will have a wonderful experience. You fear no road condition because you are basically riding a mini car. While the Propel Endeavor S's usefulness for commuting heavily depends on the kinds of commute you do with it, its performance on off-road adventures will always be amazing. When riding up and down mountain trails, the Propel S lacks neither power nor stability. Because the shock absorbers in each wheel are independent of each other, all 4 wheels can keep contact with the ground when riding on uneven terrain. There is one weak spot, however, which is the ground clearance near the back wheels and pulley. While the deck itself has a healthy 4.3-inch (11 cm) clearance from the ground, the pulley beside the wheel doesn't. If you don't plan your approach up and down a bump, the pulley will catch the obstacle and things could get ugly. On a side note, this is a problem that the X4S doesn't have. To put things into context, in an off-road adventure, the Endeavor S, being an off-road suspension board, is a league above your typical all-terrain boards, even when those all-terrain boards might be 2 times its price. But the Propel X4S is even better in the same situations. Now to summarize. The Endeavor S is an affordable off-road suspension board that doesn't skip on polish, specs, or performance. It has 2 main weaknesses, one with the Lingyi ESC, which gives the board an unusable 4th acceleration mode and less than perfect acceleration smoothness. The second, being an off-road suspension board, the Endeavor is also difficult to turn, especially if you are a lighter rider. With that said, when it comes to off-road riding, stability is preferred over maneuverability, and silky smooth speed modes are often unimportant. So, should you buy it? Well, frankly speaking, if you are looking for a traditional skating experience with lots of carving, off-road suspension boards shouldn't even be on your list. However, if you are looking for a mountain trail riding experience and don't have $2,000 to spend, the Endeavor S will be everything you need. And for the price, there is nothing else that's quite like it. As always, if you are looking to buy the Propel, or actually any e-skate, be sure to use our affiliated discount code with the link below. It will help you get 3% off, and it helps us out too. You'll also be tagged as an Electric Skateboard HQ customer, and probably be treated even better. Ride safe, guys.